Hello, welcome back to another episode of Tech Champions. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, CTO with Automax in Jacksonville, Florida. As you know, we take time each week to sit down with thought leaders and industry experts in the field of technology, and we learn about their mission and get their thoughts on the latest trends in the industry. We always have amazing guests on the show. Today is no exception. Joining us from Austin, Texas is Barrett Holcombe with SADA Systems. Barrett, welcome to the show.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So I know you work with SADA Systems as a channel manager there, but you've had a number of positions over your career. Give our viewing audience a little taste of kind of your journey to this point.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny if you think about it, because I always grew up being very into sports, very athletic, never very tech savvy. And then right after college, I started off at a reseller as a field sales representative and inside sales representative first. And really was blessed and fortunate to, have some of those senior engineers to whiteboard things for me, as I'm a very visual learner. So that helped me a lot to really start to understand the IT architecture, so to speak. So over the last decade, I've primarily worked in direct sales, but for about 2 years, I've worked on the channel side. So yes, thank you for noting. I am a channel manager based in Austin, Texas, and I primarily cover the South and the Northeast for SADA Systems, based out of LA.
All right. Yeah, that's great. Austin's a beautiful town. Great food there too. I've been there many times. So
Yeah,
I know, our viewing audience may not know a lot about SADA. I know of you guys. You've been around 20 years. You've got 3,000 plus customers. So you're a big name in the space, obviously. But for those that aren't as familiar, give us a little history on the company and what makes you guys unique in the marketplace.
sure. So just in short, I'll start off by saying, yeah, we started in 2000, solely a managed services company. And it wasn't until 2006 that we became that premier partner with Google to ultimately launch what is today known as G Suite. Actually, they just renamed it. It's Google Workspace, but G Suite. SADA started out in that services approach. So it's really helped us along the way of not only providing those Google assets to customers, but really that managed services, that white glove service approach of pre-sales, infrastructure assessments, you name it, to the reselling of those assets, and then even post-sales, which I'm sure we'll dive into in some later questions, but 365 support 24/7. So SADA has really always hung our hat on that services approach.
Yeah, that's great. So, Barrett, pre-pandemic, the people were already moving obviously to the cloud for compute and software and things of that nature. But talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has affected that industry.
It's affected it hugely, and even for myself. I mean, yeah, I'm talking to you out of my living room where I'd probably normally be in an office. Obviously, with our main goal is to help customers digitally transform to the cloud. And some customers are further along than others. So it's about us meeting you where you're at, helping identify your workloads, what is most important to your organization, and helping you transform into the cloud with no downtime. And pre-pandemic, sure, there was a lot of already data migration to the cloud, but this definitely drove it in a fast fashion. And especially also with things such as video conferencing, just like we're doing right now. I know a lot of people use, and what they use for, I'm thinking of Zoom, and I'm thinking of some of the competitors. But at the end of the day, Google started with this mantra of serving, not selling. And this was right when the pandemic hit. And so they even offered for about 5-6 months a free Google Meet trial. So Google Meet video conferencing, very secure, and customers were using it for free for several months, and then they had the option to turn off or to subscribe. But at the end of the day, it's that whole serving, not selling mantra, meeting customers where they're at and trying to adapt with everybody at this tough period.
Yeah, that's great. I love the serving not selling idea. That's fantastic. And I've heard it said that we pretty much advanced 5 years in about 5 months based on the pandemic. When you look at technology
That's
across across all those genres, so it's been very interesting to watch. And we talk to customers all the time, Barrett, that are talking about the cloud. They've kind of dipped their toe in the water. They may have some workloads that are still on-prem. They've tried some AWS or Azure or Google, And what would you say to that type of customer that's considering the cloud right now, but not really sure how to make the jump?
It's a great question. And you know what? We even have different use case scenarios where it's more of a hybrid cloud scenario or multi-cloud. We're trying to meet the customer where they are. You know, a lot of times, sometimes there's shifts within maybe IT management and maybe legacy solutions where someone else happens to come on board and wants to go in a different route. So we're trying to meet them exactly where they're at. I would say that, especially on the Google Cloud Platform side, we have seen, this isn't SADA analytics, this is industry analytics, 10 to 22% more cost effective GCP is than AWS and Azure when you kind of stack them up at the end of the day. And I would also just say to that customer that if you think about it, at the end of the day, Google was built in the cloud. Amazon, I believe, started as a bookstore. We were second or third to market. We were not first to market. That was AWS, but we started in the cloud. So custom built architecture, end-to-end encryption, and Google has a lot to offer for customers, especially at a lower price point.
Yeah, that's great. I have heard that specifically the storage is a lot less expensive in GCP as well. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Yep.
And yeah, we see customers coming to us all the time, whether it's for GCP, G Suite, Google Maps, Cloud Search. We're multi-year partner of the year for a reason, number one across the board. And it's crazy to think about, Daniel, if you think about we only have about 300 employees and we're Google's number one partner.
Yeah, that's great. And I assume you guys offer migration services as well. So that back to that example customer that they want to get there, but they don't know exactly how to do it. You can kind of hold their hand through that process as well.
100%, Daniel. And that's a great point. So we do have flat rate services packages as well. Like we want to make this as easy as possible to help customers migrate. So we have VM migration flat rate packages, database migration, everything from Anthos, you name it. We have the teams in place, and we also have an easy price plan, and as well, just to make it as simple as possible on the customer.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And you know, I did read another kind of mantra, I would say, from your website that says, "Bring us your complex problems and your bold ambitions." And I like that because you're asking for the tough questions and things of that nature from your customers because you feel confident enough you can solve it. So can you give our audience a couple examples of some projects that you feel pretty proud of?
Yeah, two off the top of my head, Daniel. I'll just give one in kind of each pillar. As I mentioned, it's now called Google Workspace, but formerly G Suite. Big customer we had there was Colgate Palmolive. I'm sure all of you are well aware. We use it every morning probably to brush our teeth. But that was a G Suite opportunity not too long ago, and they migrated about 30,000 users over to G Suite. It only took just a few months, and it was a seamless migration. And even the CTO and the CIO have raving reports on SADA.com. If you want to check out some of the customer success stories, happy to provide that in the chat window as well. Another one I'll point out briefly, Daniel, is MadHive, and that's more on the Google Cloud Platform side, so GCP. But they were not a long ago when, and their CTO has raving remarks on our website as well, helping them to transform their business as they're a big tech company as well.
Okay, no, that's great. I love those examples. Some great projects you guys have worked on. So we're going to wrap things up, but I do like to ask each of my guests, since we're called Tech Champions, that's our show. Can you give me one characteristic that it takes to become a tech champion?
Great question. And I will speak on behalf of what I've seen from our CEO in my time with SADA, and I would say 100% that would be adaptability. We've seen how quickly things can change, even a decade ago, going from on-premise hardware and capital expenditures to now everybody's trying to get more on the OpEx side, the operational expenditures, and really changing the game. But adaptability, I would say, is because the market brings different things, and the world does too, like the pandemic this year, and none of us could have predicted that, but just trying to adapt and to best help our customers.
Okay, I like it. Adaptability. Awesome. Thank you, Barrett. And thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. To our viewers, if you'd like to learn more about SADA Systems or Google Cloud, feel free to reach out to Barrett or myself on LinkedIn, send us a message, and we can create a conversation there. And thank you for joining the show. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty with Tech Champions, and we'll see you next time.